I want to tell you about something that happened a few months ago. I was 25, a recent college graduate, looking for a break after a tough semester. I went to Lakeview National Park alone, hoping to connect with nature. I rented a small cabin near the park entrance. I wasn't an expert hiker, but I knew the trails enough to feel confident. The first night in the cabin felt peaceful, at least at first. I settled in and enjoyed the quiet. It was nice to be away from everything. Around midnight, I heard soft tapping against the wall. At first, I thought it was just branches moving, brushing against the wood. But then it kept going. Tap. 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 That sound crept under my skin. I tried to ignore it, but it bothered me all night, keeping me awake. The next day, I went hiking. The trails were stunning, full of tall pines and bright lakes. But something felt off. As I walked, I felt eyes on me, like I was being followed. I heard footsteps, but every time I turned around, nothing was there. Just the rustling leaves and my own breath. I thought maybe I was just getting too wrapped up in my own head. Later that afternoon, I caught a glimpse of something. A shadow flickered between the trees. My heart raced. I stopped and scanned the area but didn't see anything. I assumed it was just a deer or maybe my imagination. I hurried back to the cabin, my mind racing. That night, the tapping returned. It was louder this time, almost frantic. I pulled the pillows over my ears, but the whispers came too. They felt like they echoed my own thoughts. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind. But deep down, I felt something was wrong. The next day, it escalated. As I walked, I heard those footsteps again, sounding so close I could almost feel a breath on my neck. I turned around, but again, nothing, just emptiness around me. I stumbled back, my heart racing. The silence pressed in on me. Should I have invited friends? That night, the tapping turned into a frenzy. I lay in bed, too scared to move. I heard a voice clearly call my name. Jenna. Just like that. My body froze. The tapping stopped instantly. Everything felt still. Then I heard it again, this time from outside. Why are you here? My heart dropped. I didn't answer. I was too terrified to even breathe. I heard rustling right by my window, and I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. I turned to look outside, and for a second, I saw a figure standing there. But when I blinked, it vanished. My head swirled, confusion mixing with fear. The next morning, I packed my things quickly. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Driving away, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror. I was finally free of that cabin, but deep down, I felt like something was still there, lingering just out of sight. Maybe it was right behind me all along. The drive home felt long and heavy. Every bump in the road sent my heart racing, and the memories of the cabin replayed in my mind like a bad dream. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it was all just a trick of my imagination. The park was beautiful, I had just let my mind wander too far. Once I reached my apartment, I dropped my bags and sank onto the couch. I flicked on the TV, hoping the noise would drown out my thoughts. But no matter how hard I tried to focus, I kept getting pulled back to that cabin. The tapping, the whispers, the figure, it felt real, too real. A few days later, my friends invited me out for drinks. They wanted to hear about my trip, and I thought maybe a night out would help clear my head. As I recounted my time in the park, my words stumbled over each other. They laughed, thinking I was exaggerating to spice up my story. But I could see the flicker of concern in their eyes. Maybe you should have just left the cabin earlier, one of them joked, and everyone chuckled. Just a joke, but it sent a chill through me. What if it was something more than just a bad experience? After a few drinks, I was feeling lighter, though the unease lingered. I returned home, nodding off in front of the TV. In the early hours of the morning, I jolted awake, the sound of tapping echoing in my mind, just like at the cabin. I dismissed it, but the feeling wouldn't leave. A wave of fear hit me when I noticed something odd. One of my hiking boots was missing. I checked everywhere under the couch, in the closet, even in my car. It was gone. Panic rushed over me. I couldn't help but think back to all the times I had been alone during that trip. Had something followed me back? I searched the apartment, checking every corner, but found nothing. I finally collapsed into bed, battling nightmares until dawn broke. A week passed, filled with restless nights and anxious days. Then it happened. I was at work, finally trying to focus on my tasks, when I received a random text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have come back." My blood went cold. I thought it was a prank, but the fear it sparked felt all too real. I looked around, scanning for someone watching. My coworker's laughter echoed through the office, but I couldn't shake the feeling that specific words were meant for me. Who was behind that message? That evening, I stepped outside for fresh air, hoping to clear my mind. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, but there was an unsettling quiet. I turned towards the parking lot, where shadows began creeping in. That's when I noticed a figure standing at the edge of the lot, partially obscured by a tree. It was a silhouette, watching me. I couldn't breathe. Whatever I had encountered in the park had followed me home. I stood frozen, waiting for the figure to step closer, to confirm my fears. But after what felt like an eternity, it turned and disappeared into the dark. I stumbled back inside, panic clutching my chest. I had to know what was really happening. I needed to face it. I couldn't run anymore. As I fumbled for my phone, I realized a second text arrived. "You'll regret this." My heart raced. I had to prepare for what was coming next. The next day, I decided to take action. I couldn't ignore what was happening any longer. I needed answers. My first thought was to go back to the park. Maybe there was something I missed. I grabbed my keys and headed out, my heart pounding with a mix of determination and dread. The drive felt different this time. The sun was shining, but shadows seemed to cling to the edges of reality, taunting me. I parked and looked toward the familiar path leading to the cabin. I hesitated. What if I found more than just memories waiting for me? Shaking off my doubts, I walked into the woods. Each step felt heavy, the rustling leaves increasingly unsettling. I was grateful for the light filtering through the trees, but in the back of my mind, I wondered if the whispers would come back. I reached the cabin. It stood there like a warning, dilapidated and still. The door creaked as I pushed it open, immediately met with the musty smell of wood and something else, something stale. My gut twisted. I flicked on a flashlight and stepped inside, scanning for anything out of place. Dust motes danced in the beam. Nothing seemed to have changed. The furniture was just as I'd left it. I approached the window, peering out into the dense trees. That's when I noticed something in the distance, a shape, moving. I squinted, hoping my mind was playing tricks. But no, there it was, a figure darting between the trees. The cold grip of fear tightened around me. I backed away from the window. Could it be the same figure from the parking lot? I felt exposed, alone. My instinct screamed at me to leave, but my curiosity won. I had to find out what it was. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside, breathing in the cool air. I moved cautiously in the direction I'd seen the movement, each footfall swallowed by the forest. The deeper I went, the more the world around me felt alive, the woods whispering secrets I didn't want to know. A distant crack of a branch snapped my focus. Someone, or something, was there with me. My heart raced, pounding in my ears. I called out, "Hello?" My voice trembled, and the sound faded into silence. Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of a flash, dark and quick, disappearing behind a tree. I rounded the trunk, but nothing was there. I felt a chill creep up my spine, the wind sighing through the branches above. I turned back toward the cabin, but panic hit as an overwhelming sense of being watched consumed me. Then, from behind me, I heard a low, raspy voice calling my name. "You shouldn't have come back." It was unmistakable, echoing through the trees like a cruel wind. I spun around, terror rooting me in place. That S, when I saw it scratched into the bark of the nearest tree, was a word, a name, Emily. My blood ran cold. How did it know my name? I turned to run, but the sound of hurried footsteps echoed behind me. I stumbled, the ground mucky beneath my shoes. I had to get away before it was too late. I charged toward the cabin, breathless and frantic, desperate to escape the woods and whatever darkness lurked within. I burst into the cabin, slamming the door behind me. The wooden frame shuddered, but I couldn't let my fear stop me now. I leaned against the door, fighting to catch my breath. My heart raced, echoing in my ears like a desperate drum. Inside, the oppressive silence felt heavier than before. I flicked off the flashlight, hoping my eyes would adjust to the dim light filtering through the dusty windows. The shadows seemed to stretch toward me, curling like fingers eager to grab hold. I scanned the room, desperately searching for something, anything that would make sense of what was happening. Then my eyes fell on the corner where the old chest sat. It hadn't struck me as strange before, but now it felt like a hidden truth waiting to be revealed. I approached it cautiously, recalling the stories of strange objects once kept here. My fingers brushed against the rough wood. Something stirred within me, a mix of fear and curiosity battling for dominance. I shrugged off my hesitation and crouched beside it. As I lifted the latch, a creak echoed through the room. I paused, listening for signs of movement outside. The faint rustle of leaves was the only sound. I eased the lid open, revealing a jumble of old clothes, dusty books, and a photo. There, in the corner, an image lay face up, and I could see familiar faces smiling back at me. I froze. The picture was of me and my friends from a camping trip years ago. We were all together, carefree and oblivious. But that wasn't the unsettling part. The unsettling part was the figure in the background, a shadowy shape just outside the frame, its eyes glinting like coals. I felt a chill creep up my spine as I fished the photo out. I had never noticed that figure before. Who was it? I turned it over, but there was nothing written on the back. Just the picture, foreboding and silent. Before I could process what I had found, a thump sounded against the cabin door. I jumped, letting the photo slip from my fingers. It fluttered to the floor, face up, as another thump followed. Someone or something was trying to get in. I scrambled to my feet, my mind racing. I had to secure the door. As I moved, I glanced back at the photo. No, it couldn't be. I stepped closer to inspect the shadow again. It looked familiar, like someone I knew but couldn't place. Panic bubbled within me. Then the door rattled again, this time with more force. Emily. The raspy voice echoed, clearer now, and my blood chilled. It was coming from outside. That voice, how did it know me? Oh God, I whispered, heart pounding harder. I had to hide, but where? My eyes darted around the small cabin, and I spotted the closet in the back. Time was running out. Without thinking, I rushed towards it, my thoughts racing about what it would mean if I didn't get away. As I reached the closet and yanked the door open, the door to the cabin splintered, bursting inward with violent force. I scrambled inside, pulling the door shut, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could barely see in the dark, but I could hear everything: the footsteps, the creaking wood, and that voice still calling my name. Then everything fell silent. I held my breath, heart pounding in my chest. The quiet felt like a warning, a moment before the storm. I strained my ears, listening for anything heavy breathing, footsteps, or that voice. But the silence was suffocating, pressing in on me from all directions. I fumbled in the dark, searching for something solid to hold on to. My fingers grazed against the rough wood of the closet, but my thoughts spiraled. Had they somehow figured out I was here? The voice rang in my head, that haunting Emily echoing like a mantra. Suddenly, I heard a soft creak. My heart lunged in my chest. I knew it wasn't my imagination. Someone was moving through the cabin. The doorframe rattled, and I could barely stop myself from gasping. I pressed myself harder against the wall of the closet, hoping it would swallow me whole. Minutes felt like hours as I waited, but the dark was comforting in a way. It concealed me. It felt safer, even while I trembled. Then came the sound of a footstep, firm and slow. It was methodical, calculated, like the approach of a predator. "Emily?" That voice again. My throat felt tight, and I didn't dare respond. I wanted to scream, to run, but all I could do was listen. I strained to hear through the cracks, waiting to see a figure pass by. Instead, a whisper followed, soft and chilling, "I just want to talk." My heart sank. This wasn't just a stranger. It felt all too personal. My mind raced back to that photo, the shadow in the background. Was it connected to whoever stood outside? What did they want from me? The footsteps shifted, moving further away. I felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly extinguished as I heard another sound, something scraping against the cabin floor. The closet door pressed against my back, threatening to give me away. I held my breath again. "Come on, Emily. Don't you want to know the truth?" The raspy tone shifted from threatening to oddly inviting. But I didn't buy it. Fear clawed at my insides. Why did it feel like this person knew me intimately? A sudden crash sent a jolt through my body. I could hear whatever or whoever was outside crashing things over in search of me. Desperation pulled at me. I turned slowly and reached for the tiny gap in the closet door, praying for some insight into the danger I faced. That's when I saw it. A gleam in the moonlight seeping through a window, the photo. It lay only feet away from where I stood. The figure in the photo stared out at me. It was a mirror image, the haunting familiarity striking me with a renewed sense of dread. "Emily." The voice boomed again, more forceful, more demanding this time. I felt the words vibrate through me, chilling my very core. I couldn't stay hidden any longer. I had to move. But as I pulled the closet door open, everything fell dark again. In panic, I stepped out, ready to confront whatever threat awaited. But I froze in place, eyes wide. The cabin was empty, but the sense of dread hung thick in the air. I hadn't felt alone for a moment. And then, I heard it, a whisper in my ear, "You should have stayed hidden." My breath caught in my throat. I wasn't safe after all. The air felt heavy, suffocating, as I stood in the darkened cabin. I strained to listen, but all I could hear was my own shaky breathing. I needed to get out, but where would I go? The isolation wrapped around me, making it nearly impossible to think straight. "Emily." That commanding voice shattered the silence again. It was closer now, echoing through the empty rooms like a ghost haunting its own home. My body tensed, every instinct screaming at me to run, but my legs felt rooted to the floor. I turned slowly, scanning the cabin. Dust motes floated in the beams of moonlight, and the remains of furniture stood as silent witnesses to my fear. The photo was still sitting there, almost taunting me with its presence. What did it mean? I wanted answers, but not like this. Suddenly, a low thud came from the other side of the room. I whipped my head toward it, heart racing. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The cabin swallowed my words, leaving the place eerily quiet again. I remembered the window near the back. If I could make it there without being spotted, maybe I could escape. I took a shaky step forward, my feet whispering against the wooden floor. As I approached the window, I nearly jumped out of my skin when I caught a glimpse of my reflection. I looked like a ghost, pale and wide-eyed. There was movement outside. I hesitated, peering through the glass. The moon illuminated the surrounding trees, but I saw nothing out of the ordinary. Still, that feeling in my gut told me otherwise. Something wasn't right. "I know you're in there, Emily," the voice came again, softer this time, but equally unsettling. "You can't hide forever." A chill crept up my spine. This person was playing a dangerous game. I pressed my palms against the window, frantically looking for any escape route. Just then, I noticed a figure, a dark shadow moving past the edge of the trees. My heart dropped. They were searching. I retracted my hands and backed away slowly. Panic surged through me. Where was the door? I needed to get out of here. But before I could even take another step, I heard a distinct crack behind me, like a twig snapping. I spun around, but it was too late. The closet door swung open with a creak, revealing nothing. An empty space, but a profound sense of dread washed over me. Just as I began to breathe again, the voice returned, angry and low, "Why won't you just talk to me?" No longer knowing how to respond, I picked a direction and ran. I bolted for the door, but my senses were on high alert. Every shadow felt like an eye watching my every move. I reached for the doorknob and pulled. It stuck. My heart raced, desperation clawing at my throat. I pushed harder, and the door finally gave way, swinging open with a shriek. Just as I stepped outside, I heard footsteps pounding behind me. I ran, not caring where. The trees loomed ahead, a maze of shadows and whispers. But in my panicked escape, I caught one last glimpse of the cabin and a figure staring back at me from the window, a twisted smile stretched across their face. But as I plunged into the dark woods, something inside me knew this was just the beginning. I was far from over. The forest swallowed me whole. Branches clawed at my arms, and roots snaked up from the ground, desperately trying to trip me. I didn't stop to look back. I couldn't. My only focus was moving deeper into the trees, away from that cabin, away from the voice that echoed in my mind. With every step, the air felt colder. I struggled to keep my breath steady. Every snap of a twig made me flinch, and every rustle of leaves made my heart race. I had no destination, only the instinct to survive. After what felt like an eternity of running, I burst into a small clearing. Moonlight poured in, illuminating the open space. I hesitated, unsure if this was better or worse. I could feel the weight of the darkness closing in again. "Emily." The voice rang out again, more desperate this time. My stomach knotted. It was like an unseen puppeteer, pulling on strings that wrapped around my chest, squeezing tighter. I dropped to the ground, heart pounding in my ears. I looked around, trying to find anything that could shield me. The clearing felt empty, but something in my gut warned me I was still not alone. That's when I saw a flash of something silver beneath the brush. I crawled closer, heart racing with both fear and curiosity. It was a small metal box, rusted but still firm. Against my better judgment, I pried it open. Inside, I found old photographs, some faded and torn, but recognizable enough to make my pulse quicken. They were pictures of me, of times I thought I was alone, of places I had never shown anyone. And then I noticed a note tucked in the corner, its edges frayed. My hands trembled as I pulled it out and read the scrawled words, "You can't escape your past, Emily." A rush of nausea hit me. Who had been watching me? I felt exposed under the moonlight, everything inside me screaming to run, but the box held me captive. The photos told stories I wasn't ready to uncover. Suddenly, a snap of a branch echoed behind me. I turned, heart thudding violently. There was nothing but shadows, but I knew a presence lingered. Emily. The voice was now frantic, echoing through the trees, making me want to scream. I stuffed the box under my arm, ready to bolt again. Then I spotted movement to my right. A figure emerged, just steps away. They were cloaked in a dark hoodie, face obscured. My breath caught in my throat. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out. "I just want to talk," they said, stepping closer. My body instinctively tensed. I wanted to trust them, but everything in me shouted to run. "Stay back," I yelled, backing away, clutching the box tighter. Then, just as quickly, they vanished into the shadows. I blinked, bewildered. Were they playing with me? I turned in circles, scanning the dark for any sign of movement. It felt like the forest could swallow me whole at any moment. That's when I realized I was no longer alone, not just by the figure, but by my own past that had come to haunt me. Desperation flooded through me. I had to get out. I had to figure out what was happening and why my past refused to stay buried. But as I turned to run again, the ground beneath me began to shift. I stumbled, confusion setting in as a sinking feeling took hold. I'd only just begun to understand, and now, I was falling into something so much darker than I ever imagined. I fell, the ground giving way beneath me. Panic overtook my senses as I tumbled into darkness. The air grew tight around me, a crushing weight pressing down. I braced myself for the impact, but instead, I landed softly on something that felt like damp earth. I wasn't sure how far I fell, but the silence was deafening. I lay still for a moment, forcing myself to breathe, trying to remember where I was. I reached for my phone, but the screen glowed a mere flicker before going dark. I cursed under my breath, the reality of being alone in the dark setting in. Carefully, I pushed myself up and swept my hands against the cold, damp ground. I needed to find a way out. As I turned, I noticed a faint light ahead, flickering like a candle's flame. I pulled myself to my feet and stumbled toward it, every step shaky. When I got closer, I realized the light came from an old lantern, dusty but still lit. My heart raced. Who had set it here? I extended my hand, but another snap in the darkness made me freeze. "Emily?" The voice came again, eerie and echoing through the space. I backed away from the lantern, instinct screaming at me to flee. But then I caught another glance at the light. Something shimmered beneath it. I hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear, finally edging closer to take a look. It was another box, similar to the one I had discovered before, but this one was sealed tightly, bound with a rust-colored twine. That same feeling of being watched crept back in. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting the hooded figure to emerge from the shadows again, but nothing stirred. The air thickened with uncertainty. Should I open it? I felt drawn to it, compelled to see what lay inside. With shaking hands, I pulled at the twine until it unraveled. A sense of dread settled in my stomach. I slowly lifted the lid, revealing items that sent shivers down my spine, a small key, a locket, and a folded piece of paper. Ignoring the locket for now, I grabbed the paper, fingers trembling. The writing was hurried, frantic. "Find the key before it's too late." My breath hitched. What did that mean? Behind me, the voice called out again, louder, more panicked. "Emily! You have to hurry." I darted around, searching the darkness for the source, but it felt like the shadows themselves were watching me. My heart hammered louder in my chest. I couldn't linger. I pocketed the key for safekeeping, leaving the locket behind. The thought of it holding secrets I wasn't ready for made me uneasy. I took one last look at the lantern, its glow almost comforting, then turned and sprinted back in the direction I hoped led to a way out. But the forest had changed. Trees twisted and crooked branches reached out like skeletal hands, the path shifting beneath me. I had to get back to the surface, to escape whatever nightmare awaited me below. As I navigated the maze of darkness, distant whispers echoed through the trees, calling my name. The voice was familiar, an unnerving mix of comfort and fear. I needed to find answers. But what if those answers led me deeper into a darkness I couldn't escape? Then I heard movement behind me, soft but determined. I turned around, ready to confront whatever had been following me all this time. The shadows parted, and I held my breath, praying I wasn't too late. I squinted into the darkness, every instinct telling me to run. A figure stepped forward. The dim light revealed a woman with wild hair and eyes that burned with urgency. "Emily. You need to come with me." I hesitated, unsure whether to trust her. "Who are you?" My voice quivered. "Not important. What matters is that we don't have time. Follow me." She glanced over her shoulder, as if expecting someone else to emerge from the shadows. Before I could respond, she grabbed my wrist and yanked me along. My heart raced as we maneuvered through the thick maze of trees. The whispers seemed to grow louder, their intent unclear. I was caught in a web of uncertainty, the urge to flee battling with the strange pull towards her. "Wait. Why should I trust you?" I gasped as I struggled to keep up. "Because there are worse things here than you can imagine." Her answer came quick, laced with fear. "That key, it opens a door to something much bigger." The word sent shivers down my spine. The key. What if it was something I could use to escape? But what door was she talking about? As we sprinted, she led me to a clearing where the moonlight cut through the trees like a spotlight. In its glow, I could see a large, weathered door set into the ground, its frame twisted and cracked. My pulse quickened at the sight. "Here. This is it," she said, releasing my wrist. "You need to unlock it. Now." I fumbled in my pocket for the key, my fingers trembling as I wrestled with the rusted metal. Just as I found it, her gaze shifted, fixed on something behind me, eyes wide with horror. "Hurry!" she hissed, hands shaking. Against every instinct, I turned. My breath caught in my throat. The hooded figure from the shadows was back, looming much closer than before. The void around it seemed to pulse with a dark energy, suffocating the air. My heart thundered as it stepped forth, revealing no face, just an abyss of darkness. "Emily," it whispered, the voice echoing like a never-ending scream. "You shouldn't be here." The key was still in my hand, held tightly, but fear paralyzed me. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The door felt miles away, and I didn't know whether to run or fight. "Unlock it," the woman shouted. She pushed me closer to the door. "You can't let it take you." With a surge of adrenaline, I thrust the key into the lock. It turned with a creak, blending with the chorus of whispers that seemed to swell around us, drowning out all else. The door shuddered, and I pulled it open, revealing a blinding light that beckoned like a siren's call. But I had one last glance back at the figure, its presence chilling me to my core. "Go!" the woman screamed, shoving me forward into the unknown. I stumbled into the light, the door slamming shut behind me, and I found myself enveloped in a sudden silence that seemed too perfect after the chaos. But deep down, a dreadful certainty gnawed at me. Whatever lay ahead might be just as terrifying as the dark I left behind. When it hit me. I hadn't just escaped the dark. I had let it follow me. I stumbled through the doorway, the blinding light enveloping me like a warm blanket. It felt so different from the menacing shadows of the forest, yet my heart pounded furiously in my chest. This newfound brightness was deceptive. It was a space filled with echoes of laughter and ghostly whispers of memories long buried. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust. I found myself in a serene landscape, vivid and alive. It was a park similar to Lakeview, filled with trees I recognized, familiar trails stretching ahead. I blinked against the glare coming from the sun streaking through the foliage, breathing deeply as if the air here was purer, sweeter. But as the light began to dim around the edges, unease crept back in. The laughter faded, replaced by whispers that echoed like a chant around me. I squinted, looking for the source, realizing I was still very much alone with my thoughts. Then it hit me, this was a place I'd visited before, safe moments from my past. The memories flickered in vivid colors, people I had loved and lost seemingly dancing in and out of my view. There were the echoes of friends I hadn't seen in years, joyful and carefree, the phantom warmth of summer days long gone. But I also felt the weight of something darker lurking in the corners of my mind. A chill crawled down my spine, reminding me of the voice from before, of the dread I had experienced in the cabin. Was I truly safe here? I turned, searching for the woman who had led me to this door, but she was gone. Emily, the voice returned, muffled yet close, a mere whisper in the breeze. I remembered the way it beckoned, a sense of familiarity, and it struck a chord within me. I'd heard it before, back in the cabin, in the woods. My pulse quickened as I spun around, expecting to see the hooded figure emerge from the trees. Nothing appeared. But that didn't quell the fear gripping me. I took a step forward, and the ground shifted beneath my feet. It felt like the earth was alive, pushing back against me, dark murmurs rising like a tide. Remember your past, the voice continued, clearer now. You're part of it. You can't escape. Adrenaline surged through me. I had seen shadows in my past, in that photo hidden away in the cabin. I felt the pull of the rusted box and the key pressing against my chest, reminding me that perhaps I needed to face what I had left behind. Emily. The voice took on an urgency, growing louder, more insistent. I turned to see flashes of movement from the edges of the landscape, but they slipped away before I could catch them. This wasn't merely a sanctuary, it was a trap. With each passing heartbeat, I realized that to find peace, I had to confront the malevolence that haunted me. I wasn't running anymore. I needed to know what the connection was between myself and the figure in the woods, the one calling my name. Come to me, Emily. The whisper faded into the tapestry of memories, a summons I had to answer. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and started walking back into the depths of the park. The air shifted around me, gusts of wind wrapping around my limbs like a reminder of who I used to be, of moments hidden and voices unacknowledged. Just as warmth enveloped me, a shadow flickered in my peripheral vision. I turned sharply, but the darkness dissipated like smoke. I pressed on, drawn by the call of my own reasons, fear, perhaps, but also a strange desire to uncover the truth behind it all. And as I ventured deeper, the echoes grew louder, enveloping me in their haunting allure. My journey was far from over. The darkness within me had merely found a new guise, a mirror reflecting all that I had tried to escape. I wasn't sure what awaited me, redemption or ruin, clarity or confusion. But one thing was certain, I was no longer running. Whatever this shadowed entity wanted from me, I was ready to confront it. In the end, the only question that remained was if I was prepared to face what I had buried within. And like a shiver, I knew that no matter how brightly the sun shone, the shadows would always linger, waiting for the chance to reclaim their hold.